Every year it seems like I make several changes to my backpacking setup, whether that be equipment or process or anything else. This year was no exception. In this video, I'm going to share 6 things that I changed about my backpacking setup in 2022. Let's go. First up on the list has to do with rain protection. So I switched away from this pack cover and now I'm using a trash compactor bag similar to this one. One of the things I didn't like about the pack cover was anytime it looks like it's going to rain, you got to quick pull it out, put it on, and then when it does rain a lot, it doesn't really seem to keep my stuff all that dry in the first place. So by switching to the trash compactor bag, basically what I do is instead of using this, I take a trash compactor bag and I stuff it on the inside of my backpack. I just put all my gear that can't get wet inside there, then I roll it up, and then I'm fine. So when it's gonna rain, I don't have to do anything. I just keep walking. In actual practice, this turned out to be fantastic. Several times I walked in all-day rains, and a couple of times I was in torrential downpours. I can tell you from in the past, when I would be using the pack cover, my stuff would get kind of wet. With the trash compactor bag, I would get to camp. Now my pack itself would be kind of wet, but on the inside and all my stuff was bone dry, which was fantastic. I just get my stuff out of my pack, jump in my tent, and everything's perfectly dry. That wasn't the case with the pack cover. When I used the pack cover, everything just seemed to be a little bit damp. So I really was a big fan of using the trash compactor bag instead of the pack cover. Another benefit is I saved about 4 ounces by doing this. Now, my pack cover was a little bit heavier, so you might not save as much weight if you make that switch, but for me, I thought that was significant. Continuing on with the theme of rain protection, another thing I changed was my rain jacket. Previously, for many years, I've been using the Frog Togs rain setup, and it's nice, it's inexpensive, it is lightweight, and it does a decent job of keeping you dry. But I switched to the Enlightened Equipment Visp rain jacket, and I am never looking back. This thing is awesome. It's lightweight, it's tear resistant, it's got pit zips, so it's a little more breathable if it gets warm outside. It's so comfortable and it does a great job of keeping you dry. Like I said before, I had to walk through quite a bit of rain this year, and that rain jacket did a phenomenal job of keeping me dry. One downside is the cost. It is quite expensive. So if you're going to be upgrading gear, I think you'd be much better off spending extra money on, say, a better tent, a better backpack, maybe a better quilt or sleeping bag. There's a lot of different areas where you can spend your money, where you can get more bang for your buck. But if you have the rest of that gear dialed in and you're looking for something really nice for your backpacking kit, the Enlightened Equipment Visp, I think, fits the bill. It's a great rain jacket. I absolutely love it. Another thing I changed up was my wedding ring. Now, I've traditionally just worn a standard men's gold wedding band, and there's a couple issues with this. First of all, when it gets really hot and humid, my hands start to swell up, and then it gets a bit uncomfortable and I can't get it on or off. On the other hand, when it gets really cold and like in the 30-40 degree range, my fingers start to shrink and my ring falls off very easily, and I don't want to lose it. I never mentioned this when it happened, but earlier this year on the North Country Trail, I actually did lose my wedding ring. What happened was it was really cold and I didn't know it, but it had fallen off in my pack. Well, I thought I lost my wedding ring, so we tore the campsite apart, couldn't find it. The whole ride home, I'm thinking, I gotta tell my wife I lost my wedding ring when I'm backpacking. She's gonna be not happy with me. She'll be very disappointed. Well, luckily when I got home, I took my gear apart and I found it in my clothing bag. But I don't want that to ever happen again. That was such a horrible feeling. So now what I'm doing is I'm using one of these little silicone wedding bands. I bought like a 4-pack of them on Amazon. I think it was like $8, dirt cheap. And I don't have to worry about it falling off. I don't have to worry about it getting stuck on my finger. Another thing to think about is if you injure your finger or your hand when you're out backpacking and your knuckle swells up, that could be a problem. You don't have to worry about that with the silicone wedding band. So this is something I'm really glad I did, and I'm going to continue using this thing from now on because I don't ever want to have to go through that situation where I thought I lost my wedding ring again. Not a good situation. The next change I made is to switch from my Tyvek tent footprint to a Polycryo tent footprint like this one. Taking a look at the Polycryo tent footprint, you can see that it's a lot lighter weight material than Tyvek. A couple of things here about this. One, it's not as tough as Tyvek, so it can tear or rip a lot more easily. Second of all, it's so lightweight that even the slightest breeze is going to blow this thing away. So you got to put your tent poles or some rocks or something on it when you first lay it out. Otherwise, it's going to blow away. But in terms of keeping my tent clean, I think it did a great job. It's also very lightweight. It's just a couple of ounces, whereas my Tyvek was like 7 or 8 ounces. So big difference there. I don't really need to have a tent footprint if I don't want to with my Z-Packs tent. However, I like to have this one with me just because I like to keep the bottom of my tent clean. Now, will I keep using this going forward? Yes, I will. However, I might try to make some improvements to it, like adding some kind of reinforcement along the edge just to make it so it doesn't tear as easily. The next thing I changed up was the tent stakes that I'm using. I traditionally had been using these tent stakes that came with my big Agnes tent. I just kept using them when I got the Z-Packs tent. However, this year when we took Callan's friend Jacob backpacking and he borrowed my tent, I needed to get some extra tent stakes. So I went with the MSR Groundhog. Now these are a little bit more lightweight than the other ones. I also like how durable they are. They've got 3 edges to them, so they seem to grip really well also. So between the lighter weight and the really nice grip, and it's got the little loop on here for pulling out of the ground, I like these quite a bit, and I'm gonna keep using them. The last thing I changed up, you might have noticed if you're watching my Colorado Trail section hike that Callan and I did back in July, and that is to wear Zensa compression sleeves on my calves. The reason I'm wearing these is very specific, and it's because I was running into a lot of problems with vasculitis in the first week or two of a longer hike. And what that is, it's kind of an ugly rash that you get, and for me it used to get worse and worse every day for about the first 10 to 14 days, and then it would just gradually go away and it wouldn't be an issue anymore. So I talked to my doctor about this. He said, try compression sleeves, and I gave it a shot. I was so happy with the result. I hardly got any vasculitis at all on the Colorado Trail. And that is something where on a trail like that, in the hotter conditions, it would have been really bad. So for me, this was a big win. If you suffer from vasculitis, you know what I'm talking about, and you should try this out. It seemed to work well for me, and it was recommended by a doctor, so can't go wrong with that. Now, if I'm doing shorter hikes, or if I'm already a couple of weeks into a hike, I probably won't wear them at all. I would probably just send them home at that point. But earlier on in a hike, I found them to be invaluable. All right, folks, that is it. Those are the 6 changes I made in 2022 to my backpacking setup. I can't wait for 2023 to see what's next. Every year I make another one of these videos because there's always new stuff that I'm doing, new things that I'm trying out. If you've made any improvements this year that you'd like to share, please leave something in the comments because I would love to hear about it, and I'm sure your fellow backpackers would as well. Thanks, and we'll see you out on the trail.